Ladies and gentlemen, hello. Can you hear me? Everybody hear me? I think I'm on, but we'll get this closer to me. We are going to start right at 6 because we're going to go live. This is live streamed for the thousands of people in South Dakota that are going to want to watch this today. We shall see. You could go home and watch this.
What's the site so I can go look and see?
It's a YouTube site. Yeah, you could have been there at home. But I sort of give you the 2 minutes. Going to plow through this, and I suspect it'll take just be 50 minutes to an hour.
How you doing?
I'm doing well.
Behaving yourself? Why should I, huh?
That's right. I'm made for TV. Way in the bottom side of this slide here, we're at the west end, not so terribly far from the convention center. You know, it's important as we gather in convention, first of all, to know again, be reminded of who we are as the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod and why we exist. And then, because that all makes a difference in why we have a convention. I mean, that's pretty logical, I would think. So first of all, what is the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod? Well, the word synod, it means to walk together. And so we decide as congregations, pastors and teachers and other church workers that we're going to join together in this way, walk together in what we teach and in serving the Lord via missions and also in maintaining colleges and seminaries and the like. And so we are congregations joined together to form a synod, and you might know that associations, this is a volunteer via the bylaws, the hand and the commissioned workers. Those are technically, as you know, the term, and I want to make that clear, and we're grateful at this time, and we are in the Great Plains region. There's also the Great Lakes region. You can figure that out, I think, where that is, along with the central region, and then that's in the light blue, and then to the right, you've got the southeast region, and then way to the left, you've got the southwest region. And why is that important? Well, we sometimes get together as district presidents for regional meetings, so there's that. But there's also the matter of some elections are based on, well, which region are you in? We elect vice presidents of the synod by region, and you might know that Reverend Nabil Noor is the vice president of the Great Plains region, and also then the third vice president of our Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. And so it's for such things as election purposes that we have these regions as well. Other things dealing with our Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, just go to that slide, right? We have about 6,000 congregants in the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, 78 deaconesses, and so 72 military schools and high schools, 1,950. I say we have 8 or 9 colleges. Concordia, Wisconsin is also the governing because of their governance model colleges. Okay? We have 2 seminaries. We have, those would be more short-term, and we have 38 statement of our South Dakota district as well. And there it is, in grateful response to God's grace and empowered by the Holy Spirit through word and sacraments, the mission of the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod is vigorously to make known the love of Christ by word and deed within our churches, communities, and the world. Okay? So it's a powerful statement of who we are and what we do. Objectives of the LCMS, and we'll move through this kind of quickly. You know, what do we do as a Lutheran Church Missouri Synod? What are we about? Well, we're about our teaching. And that's always been such a strong point. That is that's a hallmark of the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, is our strong teaching. And so, as it turns out, our first objective, as listed in our handbook, our constitution, would be to conserve and promote the unity of true faith. Also, work toward fellowship with other Christian church bodies. Also, provide united defense against schism, sectarianism, and heresy. Then, we want to strengthen congregations and their members in giving bold witness. Then concerns the recruitment and training of our church workers. Also provide opportunities for members to show mercy to others. And the beat goes on. We've got a lot more here. Objectives: to aid congregations to develop and support Christian education, schools, and institutions. And also dealing with helping congregations by providing some resources to promote, express, and defend unity in the true faith, and so on. Encourage congregations to strive for uniformity in church practice and develop appreciation of variety of responsible practices and customs which are in harmony and with our profession of faith. And so we do want to walk together. We want to be a synod in how we operate as congregations, but you can tell here that it also that we also recognize that there's variety, that not every setting is exactly the same, and so variety, such as in worship, is also encouraged. And to provide evangelical supervision, counsel, care for church workers. This gets into more what I do as a district president. Provide protection for congregations, pastors and teachers, church workers in performance of their duties and the maintenance of their rights, and then aid in providing for welfare of church workers and their families. So just a lot of things get done when we are a part of a church body, when we're part of a synod, and we can do many marvelous things as together, 6,000 congregations, about 2 million church members, gather our resources, gather our collective wisdom, and work for the kingdom. Okay, so just to let you know what we are and what we do as the synod. Pretty much a review for you, I'm sure. Well then, the National Convention happens every 3 years, and it so happens that so does the National Youth Gathering. So it's always just a couple of weeks apart, National Youth Gathering and our National or Synod Convention. All right. So at the National Convention, well, what happens? Opportunities for worship, nurture, inspiration, fellowship, communication. A lot of good and positive things happen as we gather together as the church. We're talking about 1,000 voting delegates is what we're talking about, along with a couple of hundred advisory delegates, okay? So a lot of folks are gathering in Tampa this summer. We do things like amending the Constitution and the bylaws, although we can amend the bylaws right away at a synod convention just by a majority vote of those who vote. But for the Constitution, it's a little different. It requires a 2/3 majority of those who cast votes at the synod convention, and then there needs to be more happening. The congregations also have to vote. After the synod convention has voted for something, for some kind of a change to the Constitution, well, then the congregations have to chime in. And if they don't approve the change that has happened at the convention by a 2/3 majority of congregations voting, well, then that is defeated, okay? So it's hard to change the Constitution of the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. Not so much the bylaws. So I think you can see the distinction there. Other things happening, consider and take action on reports and overtures, handle appropriate appeals, establish general positions and policies of the synod, evaluate positions, programs, policies, directions, priorities to provide responsible service on behalf of its members, authorize affiliation, association, discontinuance with other church bodies, synods, or federations. It happens at this convention that we are going to endorse or approve fellowship, pulpit and altar fellowship with 4 church bodies across the seas. Okay, and I'll mention those specifically when I get into the resolutions. And of course, there are elections for national officers, boards, and commissions. Convention theme. Well, there it is. Joyfully Lutheran. Rejoice, pray, give thanks. In this from 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verses 16, of God in Christ Jesus for you. The theme, despite for us, and keeps visiting us because Christ is coming back. There is joy of how convention business then. There were 367 overtures submitted, and our church district in our convention overtures to the Synod Convention. Just were, many more overtures. Big old book called The Convention Line to LCMS.org, and you can resolutions requesting actions to prepare resolutions, things in the South Dakota district. Submission of overtures by congregations, conventions such as district conventions, pastors' conferences can submit overtures. Boards of the Synod, including the district board of directors from South Dakota, could have submitted an overture, and other places. Then there is review of the overtures by our Synod president and legal counsel. There is then a lot of work that goes on by the 12 floor committees that met just the past weekend, not this weekend, but last weekend in St. Louis. They go to work on their particular overtures, and they then will convert that content into resolutions that are acted on. Okay? So that's how this has happened, and already it was amazing to see how the good work, not only the good work done by the floor committees, but then how our Synod Secretary, Reverend Sias, along with his assistant Pam Weeke, already has the first edition of what's called Today's Business. That's online, and soon all of our delegates will be receiving something that looks a little like this again, but not quite as big, with all of the, no longer the resolutions, but now the overtures that will be acted on by the convention. So Today's Business Issue 1 will be in the mail very soon to our delegates, but that can already be accessed online, once again, on the Synod website. Okay. Serving as a voting delegate, and we have, if you're a voting delegate to the convention, raise your hand. I know we have a few here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, very good. Four of our 16 are here today, and the others, some are probably tuned in today via our YouTube channel. Okay, just a few things that are, you are actually, when you're elected as adapts in the service as delegate, but these are some of the things that meets once or twice a year. About the resolutions as well. Delegates, as it says there, they have pro microphone, against, you go to the con. That the assembly will listen, so pro and con. That's what is attempted. Shall attempt to discover the delegates are going to call the pastors of our, how they do that, agree with the sentiment of their circuit. They be there at the sessions of the convention, preferably in person, and okay, you report to these congregations, I'll report South Dakota District. All right? From Circuit 1, David Dabercow from Zion White, and first from Emmanuel. Circuit 4, Reverend John Fries from Grace Dead. From the Mitchell Circuit, Daryl Hampton from St. John Woolsey. It should be R-E-C-K, and Terry's right there. Guy Bauman, Resurrect. Jesse Davis, First English Centerville, Zion votes on your behalf. There are pastors at the Pine Ridge, a congregation as head pastor, and we have Reverend Clark Geese vote. Likewise, representing our Falls. So just about there for the election of the synod president. This happens before the convention, and this just for the last couple of convention cycles where we know going in who the next president is, or could be the same president, could be reelected, of course. And so on June 22nd, 4 weeks prior to the convention, your pastor and someone else, a lay person designated by your congregation, will have the opportunity to cast their vote for synod president. So theoretically, 6,000 congregations in our synod, although some are in parishes, that is 2 congregations sharing a pastor and so forth. So there's about 6,000 times 2, there'd be about 10,000 potential votes, I would say, for synod president on June 22nd. Ballot of 3, the incumbent, Reverend Harrison, also David Meyer, who is the district president of the Michigan district, and then Reverend Timothy Klinkenberg, who's parish pastor at St. John Lutheran in Orange, California. It's those 3 who receive the most nominations for president of the synod. So, the vote is coming. And if none of those 3 receives a majority, more than 50% of the vote, then there has to be a second ballot with the lowest vote getter falling off the ballot. And then another vote online is going to happen on June 29th. Okay? And so we'll know by July 6th who the president of the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod is going forward. Okay. Other elections, all kinds of elections take place then at the Synod Convention. I don't know, something like 8. So I'll be announcing election such position. So pray for me that I don't lose my voice. I'll be first vice president. It's tentative, fairly well final schedule for the convention. There it is. I don't know how much you need to know there. Except our voting delegates need to be at that orientation on Saturday, July 20th from 1:30 to 3. Be there because there's a lot to know. Yeah, like how to operate that stuff, the electronic equipment. And some more, every day they're going to build around this theme, joyfully Lutheran, okay? I saw ice cream at that first evening there on the 21st. That's pretty cool. Just makes you want to go to this, doesn't it? Okay. Now we'll start to get into the business, what kind of resolutions maybe to look forward to. Okay, there we are. Again, there are 13 floor committees. I'm on floor committee 13, and we had nothing to do with any of the resolutions. So I didn't even have to go to the floor committee weekend last weekend. And so the business is divided among really 12 floor committees. The first is National Witness, and it concerns things like this: rural and small town national mission efforts, the legacy who advanced Lutheran educating congregations, and then how to witness young people to your kids with that. Okay, so it's floor committee 2, is in various places around the world. And this one is going to be our synod headquarters, and those who work at Office of International Mission and Office of National Mission, they want to know what's going on with congregations who are maybe doing some mission work overseas. And so this resolution, I think, is going to meet with a lot of debate. Now, you wouldn't think so. Again, it's 2-06. It's found on page 50. You don't have this, but in case you want to look online at the today's business issue number 1 on page 57. But again, encouraging support of short-term mission activities, sort of all about the relationship of, okay, we have National Synod sending out missionaries, and we saw the number, like 98 worldwide, full career missionaries and the like. Sort of what is the relationship then when congregations may want to send missionaries to the same part of the world where we already have some career missionaries? Do you think communication will be important if congregations are doing that? And so it deals with that kind of a matter, all right? So I guess our delegates pay close attention to that particular seemingly harmless resolution, because it just says encourage short-term. So just know about that. Human care, immigration. There's a connection between this floor resolutions or even meatier life issues. So these do a lot of thanking, and as I read the Res 11, where as even 11. Okay, but under worker wellness, that is a big issue in our synod, okay, to encourage worker wellness. And that is Resolution 3-05 on page 64 of today's business, issue number 1. And you know, again, of course we want our workers to be healthy. We're talking about pastors and teachers and DCEs and deaconesses and the like. But we're aware more and more that of the struggles that our church workers face. And so this resolution is, I think, an important one regarding worker wellness. Life together, such things as our triennial synod harmony and reformation. Turns out, let's not forget, okay, we've celebrated the 5, and let's do something to celebrate those high water marks in the development of Lutheranism as well. But under this one, floor committee number 4, Resolution 4-03 on page 60, probably have heard somewhere along the line, is witness, mercy, and life together. I think a theme that has served us very well in our synod. Well, the new one that is being proposed for 2019 to 2022, and again found in this Resolution 4-03, is Disciples for Life. Disciples for Life. Okay, so our delegates should pay attention to that. And I see a connection between this theme and the floor committee, that's a new one this time, floor committee 12, which is called the Retention Floor Committee. And we'll get into that in a little while here. But, you know, Disciples for Life. How do we keep those whom we baptize connected to Christ and to the church in their lifelong journey? And as you know, there are certain points in that journey where people fall away, college age and the like. Okay, so this Disciples for Life is going to be an important emphasis, I believe. Another resolution under Life Together, Floor Committee 4, is 4-05 to commend the celebration of the 175th anniversary of the Synod in the year 2022. And so, especially in districts, I know that this resolution says, well, in your district convention in 2021, is that right? Yeah, 2021. Make sure you make a big deal about this, the Synod's birthday, 175th birthday. So I write this down so I don't forget, okay? And then under Life Together, it would be concerning recognized service organization. This is a big one. 4-06 is the number of this resolution. And again, it deals with recognized service organizations. And an example of an RSO would be, have you heard of Grace Place Ministries in our synod, which is about taking care of church workers? That's an example. In fact, the Good Samaritan ministry, Homes Ministry, has been a recognized service organization of the LCMS. Did you know that? And it's located within our district. So those are, and there are many, many, and well, Sioux Falls Lutheran School is an RSO. School associations can be RSOs too. And so I have to pull out the handbook one time today to read to you what an RSO is. All right, I was all prepared for this, page 191. Can't wait, can you? Here we go. The granting of recognized service organization status by the Synod signifies that a service organization, while independent of the Synod, fosters the mission and ministry of the Church, engages in program activity that is in harmony with the programs of the boards of the Synod, and respects and does not act contrary to the doctrine and practice of the Synod. So it's a ministry that advances the work of the gospel or the work of mercy. And this particular resolution, 4-06, is going to categorize recognized service organizations and help organize our relationship to them along the lines of witness, education, and mercy, okay? And it's kind of complicated, but I do think it's an important resolution, and I do think it will receive a lot of debate, a lot of pro and con debate. But I think it's very well written, and it's a big long one in the today's business, because it shows how the bylaws of the Synod need to be changed if we enact this one. Then we come to theology and church relations, and they're going to be dealing with a particular resolution that deals with teaching again. We haven't forgotten to, but our creation, all right? I mean, God created the heavens and the earth 6 days. And so there's an emphasis on this, and I find it interesting that the resolution that, again, there were like 20 different overtures concerning this, but the one that seems to be the one that they settled on, the floor committee, was the one submitted by our seminaries. The seminary faculties of Fort Wayne and St. Louis got together and submitted about 4 or 5 overtures, did some important work for the church. And this is an example of some of the work they did that, okay, we're going to grab what they have said and we're going to put this forward as we speak to the doctrine, the truth of creation, okay? So pay attention to Resolution 5-09. This is one example where they take about 20 overtures and boil it down to one with other church bodies, and so we have proposed church bodies entering these Evangelical Lutheran Church, the confession. These are not big, the biblical doctrine of the, and what this means is Pastor Lair could accept this, and he could go to Belgium, for example. And so, we would be able to action, and I believe there will be representatives of these, and we enter into fellowship with other groups. The pastoral ministry and how we work together. 6 deals with the pastoral ministry and seminaries. Here, I've highlighted a couple of resolutions, 6-01, page 93 of today's business, Church Worker Recruitment Initiative. Turns out that our numbers have fallen. I'm talking about numbers of church work students at colleges, the numbers of students at seminaries. You've heard that, haven't you? And so what can we do about this? So there's an initiative being proposed. That's an important resolution. There's another one under this floor committee, Resolution 6-03, page 95 of the today's business, to enhance the SMP program, the specific ministry program. This is a route to the ministry that's non-residential. For example, Pastor Al Sutton, who's electrician by day, during the week, out in Rapid City area, well, he's our missionary to the Pine Ridge Reservation. Al is an SMP pastor. Pastor Brett Bierman up south of Aberdeen is an SMP pastor as well. What this particular resolution wants to do is to require that they take biblical languages. So currently in the SMP program, that's not necessary that they'd have to take Greek, like the rest of us had to take Greek. Because it's, they're working, they're bivocational, they're an electrician or they're a farmer and they can't move to St. Louis, so they can't move to Fort Wayne for this education. And so there have been, you know, some tweaks to their pastoral formation. It's still an intensive pastoral formation process of, you know, taking classes online and occasionally going to Fort Wayne or St. Louis for a couple of weeks at a time or a week at a time. So they want to add the requirement of biblical languages. They also, in this program currently, if you are accepted into the program, you're starting to take classes, you are a vicar immediately as a SMP candidate for the ministry. This resolution says, well, let's wait. Let's give them the vicar status after their first year of taking. So after about 4 classes, then let's say they're a vicar. So there are some tweaks that are being proposed to this alternate route to the pastoral ministry. So pay attention to that one. Into the next one, university education. First of all, here's where we submitted an overture, and it, thank God for noting, a big anniversary. How about that? We did it. Here's where we have 8 college presidents, and not 9, I believe, giving them, they're kind of an advisory council that's being proposed that helps shape more the governance system of the Concordia University system. So it sounds, you know, kind of dry and not too interesting, but I think some pretty important resolutions here. Then, finance and structure and administration. Well, getting one of our own resolutions from the South Dakota, Christopher, for writing that particular offerings to the Joint Seminary Fund. So this is a way of raising, all right, when you have an ordination installation, 25th anniversary of his ordination not terribly long ago, provide for pastors in the future. They 50 to 50. That sort of went down the tubes. Our district, after we met in convention, big old explanation, how many total communicant members are in no matter how many at the Synod Convention. So says essentially, and so we're not going to deal with it at this the microphone and move that this be brought. What happened to that particular supervision? You know, this is part of there are disputes between depends. That's resolution 10-03, which is on page 152. I'm going to predict that there's going to be a lot of discussion about that. And so I should probably turn to that just to be sure. And this is toward the end of the business, the overtures. Yeah, but what this says, resolution 10-03, is to give thanks to all who work to complete the process outlined by Synod Convention resolution in 2016, resolution 12-14, regarding the right of an accuser to appeal when a district president or president fails to act or declines to suspend. And that sounds terrible, doesn't it? But what happens here is there's a process. If a pastor might be teaching something that's contrary to Scripture, well, a district president is supposed to take some action on that. And if I would fail to do that, this could be taken to the Synod president for some kind of resolution. Okay, so that's basically what it is. And you know, this is something that was quite contentious in the last convention. And so it's coming up again, but as of just to thank God for what happened. And as it turns out, there were no such cases where in the last triennium where a district president failed in this area. In other words, in every situation where they had to deal with maybe a worker who was unfaithful to his spouse, for example, you know, district president, upon finding these kind of things out, needs to act on that and do something for the sake of the gospel. And you know, and if he fails to do that, someone can bring this up and appeal to the Synod president to bring some kind of closure or some kind of action that they think needs to happen. And so, as it turns out, there were no such cases that happened in the last 3 years, where, in other words, our district presidents were doing their job if something big like this came up. So, delegates, pay attention to 10-03. Church and culture. This is a new one, I believe. A new two is, again, this is where our seminaries got together, by and large, the content of which is dealing with sexual orientation, something for you to read as a phenomenon, right? Who am I as a person? Well, we have something to say about that by way of a resolution. Also, another one is physician-assisted suicide. Believe me, brothers and sisters, this will be an issue that's going to start. It has started, I think, coming to Pier, hasn't it? It's making its way to our legislature, and many states certainly allow physician-assisted suicide. We believe God doesn't. God doesn't want something like this to happen, and so we are speaking to it as a church body in Resolution 11-06. Okay, finally, we have Floor Committee 12. This is a new one, and this certainly goes along with the mission and ministry theme that will undoubtedly be passed by convention.